The Tennis Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Onyx Fantasy. Sign up with the promo code SGPN to get a 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000. We're also brought to you by Rhythm, the leader in data-driven picks and props. Get a 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgambling.com/RATHMM. And welcome, everybody, to the Tennis Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is currently Friday afternoon, roughly 1:40 p.m. Eastern Time on January 3rd. I'm host, as always, Scott Reichel, once again going solo for this pod. Time to get into the actual semifinal matchups here in Brisbane and Hong Kong. So we're going to preview all four matchups taking place on early Saturday morning. For that, though, do want to quickly recap what happened in the last episode for the lock and dog picks, as well as for the recap of the quarterfinal matches. Starting off with the lock and dog picks. Overall, decent episode. Should have been a sweep. Pretty brutal beat there for the dog. But for the lock, nice winner as we had Djokovic and Opelka first 6 games. In the first set, 3-3 at -120. Never in doubt, no breaks, no break points. Pretty straightforward there. Opelka, you can't put a -120 to basically hold 3 times in a row and not to break in that span, as we cashed easily. It's a nice win there for the lock. For the dog, though, picked up an absolute heartbreaking loss. Had the first set tiebreak again in the Perricard-Mensik match, and unfortunately, it was 6-5, and Mensik was trying to serve it out to force the breaker. He was up 30-love, and he got broken. Lost 4 straight points, so the set ended up landing 12 as we lost by a hook. 2 points away from glory, and unfortunately that ended up going up in flames. To make matters worse, I also had a couple of bets involving the, I'd say, first 2 sets of this match to actually go to breakers. FanDuel hung a crazy number. They have a prop for that, and it was at like 17-1, which was insane. So either way, point is I had that as a straight bet and as the final leg of a parlay piece, and that one break was the only break in the entire match. Mensik blowing a 30-love lead in the 5-6 game of the first set ended up preventing me from winning $5,000. So not exactly a fun way to spend early Friday morning watching the match on my computer, because Tennis Channel is not showing it, obviously. So I have to watch it on stream and watch $5,000 potential profit go down in smoke. So either way, that's how I'd say heartbreaking it actually was to lose that dog play. But either way, point is ended up losing that one by a hook. Still won the lock, though, so it could have been worse. Now, before we get into the actual recap of the quarterfinal matchups, I want to remind you once again that you can show support for the show by leaving a rating and a review on Spotify or Apple. You also like and subscribe on YouTube. So I've gone up a little bit. So welcome if you're new to the show in 2025. Hopefully you do enjoy the content. Don't forget to leave some feedback if you want any, I'd say, updates, or you want me to change anything, or if you like it the way as it is. Plus, a reminder, check out the merch store on the SGPN website. We have a lot of great Tennis Gambling Podcast merch. We have sweatshirts, t-shirts, and mugs, all high quality or affordable. So once again, recommend getting yourself something there from the merch store, not just for this show, but for the other shows with the network. Plus, a reminder, we also have a lot of podcasts available, and if you want to try to find an easier way to keep track of all of them, check out the SGPN app, because we have all of our picks and podcasts in one place for free, by the way. So it's free on the App Store. Just type SGPN into the App Store, and you'll find it instantly. Now, moving on to a reminder, by the way, we just had the 400th episode. This is 401. We did a contest for the 400th episode. It's still live, actually. So for the contest, once again, if you leave a rating and a review on Spotify or Apple, and then you send me a screenshot of that review, send it to me on Twitter at Reichel Radio, and you'll be entered into the random drawing. The winner will get an SGPN gift card for the merch store. So once again, if you want some free merch and you don't want to pay for it, this is a way to get around it. You can enter the contest by leaving a rating and a review on Spotify or Apple. Send me a screenshot, send it to me on Twitter, Reichel Radio, in my DMs, and then you'll be entered into the competition. And that way, if you end up winning, you'll get a free SGPN gift card. Anyway, time to recap the actual matches that we ended up seeing in the quarterfinals. So starting off with the first match in Brisbane, Jari did lose to Lehecka 6-4, 6-4. Went the way that I thought it would. I know that we had Jari to win the quarter. Didn't work out. You could have hedged if you wanted to. It was a little bit juicy at -240 for Lehecka, but we had Jari at 5-1, so it wasn't too bad. Point is, though, match was the way that I thought it would go. Lehecka being slightly better, but mostly holds of serve, and that's kind of what we got there, as you saw Lehecka eventually win in straight sets. Then you had a very underwhelming matchup, which was Dimitrov beating Thompson. Thought it'd be close. Thompson, though, was clearly injured, and he ended up quitting in the second set. He was down 1-6, 1-2, so he was definitely over, and Thompson said, I am out of here. So Dimitrov continues his title defense as he moves on into the semis. Then you had Perricard, who ended up beating Mensik 7-5, 7-6. Once again, a painful 7-5, 7-6 for me. But either way, nice win for Perricard, keeps rolling, and he still can't be broken. I believe Mensik had 0 break points in the entire match. Pretty much the same story in every Paracard match. You can't really break the guy, and nothing changed in this one. And then you had the absolute shocker, the early upset of the year of 2025. Joker went down in straight sets to Opelka. Now, for this one, Opelka had a monster serving game match. No way around it. It's the only way he was going to win. He won 78% of his first serve points and 85% of his second serve points. He was just outstanding. He ended up landing, I believe, 80% of his first serve. So he was really just dialed in from the get-go. Joker ended up having a break point in there, could not convert. Opelka, though, I thought actually played very well in terms of rallying, at least compared to his usual, I'd say, rally intolerance. I thought that might have been the best match Opelka ever played, and I feel like he definitely rose to the occasion. He saw Joker against him and said, you know what? I'm going to go for it. What's the worst that could happen? And he pulled off the upset. Think he was around 10-1 as a dog in this one, and he won in straight sets. So overall, great showing by Opelka. I can't really say Joker even played that badly. The issue was Opelka just served that well, and I thought Opelka did a good job of pressuring Joker's second serves, and that eventually resulted in enough breakpoint chances to get one across, and then once that happened, Opelka was not going to get broken, and he won in straight sets. That was definitely the shocker of the day in general, both in Brisbane and Hong Kong. Joker went down as tournament favorite to Opelka. So that was definitely the surprise. For Hong Kong, though, you had a bunch of marathon matches because all 4 matches went into a deciding set. Mueller ended up upsetting Fees. Thought Fees would win that one. He won the first set, and then he kind of fell apart. Mueller ended up getting the job done. Fees is such an annoying player to back because on one hand, he has all the talent in the world. We saw it with him winning a couple of titles last year, beating Zverev in Germany, actually, in the final in Hamburg. Won a title there in a marathon match against Humbert. I believe that was in Tokyo. Point is, he's got clear upside, but he just constantly plays down to competition, and it's very annoying to deal with, especially when you're betting. But Fees fell short after winning the first set as a massive favorite against Mueller, as he got killed in the third set, 6-1. Then you had another upset. You saw Musetti win the first set comfortably against Munar, and then he lost. Munar won 7-6, 7-5 in the last 2 sets. So unfortunately, the first 2 matches in Hong Kong ended up killing outrights that we had with Fees and with Musetti. Good win for Munar, though, playing better on hard court than I thought he would. And now you have a kind of a really weird semifinal matchup on a hard court between Mueller and Munar, which nobody expected. But either way, point is definitely should be an interesting match that I'll preview in a second. But overall, those 2 matches were definitely competitive. The Munar one was especially because you ended up seeing a 7-6 and a 7-5 as the last 2 sets. Saw Shang beat Morozin in 3. That I actually did predict. I had Shang winning in 3. That's what happened, as Morozin won the first set comfortably. Then Shang settled in, as he eventually did win 6-3, 6-4. For the last one, got this one right too. Liked Nishikori in 3 against Nori. That's what happened, as you saw Nishikori get the job done, winning the first set, losing the second, and winning the third set, 6-2. So overall, a good day for us, based on the actual, I'd say, I don't want to use the word lean, but based on the non-lock predictions for the matches. We like the over in sets for the Shang and Nishikori matches. We like Shang and Nishikori to win. We were wrong about Fees and about Musetti, but we did like the lock for 3-3 in the first 6 games of the Opelka match that got there. We also, of course, did like once again, we thought Leheshko would win, but either way, point is that was a straight set win for him. To get into briefly, though, before we get into the semis, the recap of the actual outrights quickly, because now we have the, I'd say, quarterfinals fully resolved, or should say the quarter bets fully graded. So starting off with Brisbane, first quarter, we did not end up having Opelka, so that did not work out. So that ended up being a loss with the Pyron. Didn't take Joker, though. Thought the price was too expensive. Second quarter, did win. We had Paracard at plus 333. We had Mensik 2 at 4-1, but that didn't matter, as Paracard got the job done there at plus 333. Third quarter, we ended up losing. Had Jari, which you could have hedged at 5-1, and we had Bonzi, but either way, point is you ended up seeing Jari lose to Leheshka in the third quarter in the quarterfinal match, I meant to say. So I picked up a loss there in the third quarter. Fourth quarter, though, ended up having Dimitrov at 150. That ended up working out. Thought Thompson was the only threat, and thought Thompson would not be able to beat Berrettini and Dimitrov. We were right. So we ended up getting 2 out of the 4 quarters there. Didn't have quarters for Hong Kong, so can't really recap those. Now, anyway, time to get into the actual preview of the semifinal matchups here in Brisbane and Hong Kong. But for that, though, do want to remind you once again, that we are brought to you by Underdog Fantasy because they have a lot of great items on their pick menu. They have a lot of ways to make money, whether it involves profit boosts or gimme pick'ems. Underdog Best Ball is also available now for the playoffs. The Gauntlet Tournament has $2 million in prizes up for grabs for just a $25 entry. NFL, college football, college basketball, MMA, NBA, NASCAR, and more. You can also use specials and boosts on our flex entries. For my upcoming entry, I'll go to Bo Nix higher 1.5 passing touchdowns in the game against the Chiefs. Chiefs aren't trying. Broncos need to win. I think that Bo Nix will definitely look sharp through the air because they really can't run the ball. A reminder, though, when you do sign up for your new account, use the promo code SGPN. Especially when first time deposit over up to 1K in bonus cash on the fantasy promo code SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Gun Podcast. Just finished recapping what happened in the quarters. Now it's time to move on into the semifinal matchup. Starting off with Brisbane again. So for the first matchup here in the semis, you have what should be a pretty interesting one between Lehechka and Dimitrov. Now for this one, Dimitrov's around minus 175. Lehechka's around plus 155. For the spread, -2. For Dimitrov, you have Lehechka +2. The over-under is about 23.5 games. For set spread here, you have Dimitrov in straight sets at around plus 150. Lehechka to win a set is minus 180. Lehechka to win in straight sets is plus 325. The over 2.5 sets is around plus 125. Plus 130. Now, for that, Ted, you actually seen Lehechka look sharp against Dimitrov in the past, as Lehechka's 2-1 lifetime. In fact, Dimitrov beat him in the Australian Open back in 2022 in 4 sets. Then you saw Lehechka get revenge in Stockholm that same year as he won in 3 with a final set breaker. Then they faced off in Monte Carlo in 2023, and you saw Lehechka win that one 7-6, 6-4. So they did not face off last year, but Lehechka is currently on a 2-game winning streak or 2-match winning streak against Dimitrov. So we'll see how this matchup plays itself out. Now, Lehechka's been good. Saw him have a pretty competitive matchup against Nishioka in the second match, but he ended up beating Jari in straight sets, and he beat Rune in straight sets. And he's actually alive in doubles, who's actually been pretty good at this venue, whether it involves singles or doubles. For Dimitrov, he's not dropped a set. Beat Hanfman in straight sets, beat Vukic in straight sets, and beat Thompson with an injury involved in a set and a half. So for this matchup, I think that this price makes sense, but I think it's a bit high, actually. I don't mind Lehechka for value. I think Dimitrov is the favorite for good reason because he's the defending champion. But Lehechka's been good here, and Lehechka's been good in the head-to-head. I think it's going to be close. Now, you can get Dimitrov games for the team total at 12.5. That I like. I see either a 3-setter or potential Dimitrov win with a breaker or maybe a 7-5 in there. That's probably my favorite play here. I think Lehechka's alive. I think it'll be a close matchup. I like the over, but 23.5 is pretty annoying. I want a 22.5, and that's unfortunately at minus 160. So instead, I'm going to go with Dimitrov team total over in this one at 12.5. I think he should be favored. Despite losing 2 straight to Lehechka, that was a bit dated. That was about 2 years ago. I think that he's in good form. We've seen Dimitrov not drop a set yet, but he was involved in a tiebreak against Vukic and a tiebreak against Hanfman. So I think that you might see one extremely competitive set here that ends up getting into a 7-5 or 7-6, or Dimitrov could potentially lose in 3, like we saw with Berrettini in the first match against Thompson, which we had as a lock in the episode a couple of days ago. Point is, we had Berrettini team total over, and the argument was at 12.5, you could either win with a tiebreak or a 7-5, or you win in 3 sets, or you lose in a competitive 3 sets. And I feel like with that being the case, I see Dimitrov not getting destroyed. I think he'll either win in a close straight sets, or it'll go 3 sets and you got a marathon in your hands. I'll go with Dimitrov team total over 12.5. That was on DraftKings, I believe, as my favorite play for that match. Moving on to the next matchup, you have the absolute serving clinic, which we're going to see at 5:30 in the morning, between Opelka and Perricard. Now, the matchup is close on the books because you're looking at what should be no breaks. Now, you're looking at Perricard being minus 135. You have Opelka at around plus 115 for the game spread, minus half a game for Perricard at minus 120. For Opelka, you have plus half a game at even money. For the over-under, 26.5. The under is around minus 130, and the over is around plus 115. For the set spread here, you have Perricard in straight sets at around plus 220. You have Opelka in straight sets at plus 275. The over 2.5 sets is around a plus 105, give or take. Shop around there. You can find better prices if you do look hard enough. So overall, you're looking at what should be a fun matchup, no head-to-head history, but the real story here is if anybody's going to break anybody, and if you're just expecting 2 immediate tie breaks, because you are looking at both guys who have been really, really good at holding in this event. In fact, I believe only Opelka's been broken, and that was against Arnaldi. He was broken 1 time. Perricard has barely faced any break points. He's just an absolute machine. So you know that he's going to probably hold serve in every game of this matchup. Now, Opelka looked really good against Djokovic. He moved well. I thought he actually rallied pretty well for his standards, at least. And he was able to actually unload on the forehand a couple times to set up good opportunities to win points, especially when Joker was serving. And that's why he ended up winning the matchup. So for this match, the question is, which guy do you trust more? I'd say either in breakers or just when it comes to less errors. And I feel like the answer for me would be Perricard. I think Perricard is the better player if you're asking me who I think is worthy of being the favorite. Perricard's been an absolute machine. We've seen him win a couple titles last year, one on clay, one on hard court in Basel, where it didn't get broken the entire event. I think you're looking at Opelka maybe having an emotional letdown after pulling off the upset against Joker as a 10-1 underdog. I am wondering if this is a spot where he beat Joker, then maybe he's mentally not fully engaged in this one. It's a good letdown opportunity, and Perricard has been a freight train. I'm going to go Perricard here, who I think is the better server out of the two. You could argue that double faults could play a serious factor in the tiebreak for Perricard because he tends to bomb some second serves, but I don't see many breaks. I think that Perricard is the better returner than Opelka. So if you're asking for a hypothetical break, who do I think has the better chance of actually getting a break ahead? I think the answer is Perricard. But I think you're looking at what should be a close matchup, maybe going to 2 tie breaks. But I think my favorite play in this one is probably the under in games here at around 26.5. It just feels like it is definitely a pretty good deal. Once again, if you get a couple of breaks, you're fine because if you get a couple of breakers, you're fine because the only way you lose at 26.5 is 3 sets. So if you see either guy dominate both breakers, you're chilling. So I think that's a pretty decent price there. Not much value for the expected hold fest we're going to get. I know FanDuel posted the first 2 sets to go to a tiebreak again at -110. I'll pass. Not worth my time. First set over 12.5 is -230. I'll pass. Give me the under in games here, and hopefully one of these guys does end up winning in straight sets. Moving on to the matchups here in Hong Kong. So for the first one, you have the very weird one between Moore and Munar, which nobody saw coming. Munar is -120. You have Moore at even money. You have the -1 spread for Munar at -110. You have Moore +1 at -110. The over-under in games is 22.5. Now for the actual set spread here, Moore in straight sets, Moore in straight sets is +250. Munar in straight sets is +200. The over 2.5 sets is around +125. Now they faced off 4 times in their careers, and Munar is 3-1. However, all 4 meetings were 1 on clay, and 2, most of them were dated. They had 2 meetings in 2020, 1 meeting in 2023, face off last year in France, and I believe that was a challenger, and Munar ended up winning in 3 sets. But the point is, you have seen Munar get the better of Moore for the most part, but 2 of those meetings were Munar victories in 2020, so can't really factor those in. Now, for the path of both guys, Moore has been good, hasn't faced off against great competition, and he has dropped the first set in every single match. So he ended up losing the first set to Husler, came back and won in 3, whilst the first set to Kekmanovic came back and won in 3, whilst the first set to Fils, and ended up winning in 3. As for Munar, he's also dropped the first set, as he dropped the first set to Musetti, 6-2, came back and won a 7-6, 7-5, beat Borges in straight sets, and ended up dropping the first set to Fokina for winning 6-3, 6-3. Now, for this matchup, I think that Mueller's competition is weaker than Munar's. Munar beating Musetti, Borges, and Fokina, not an easy path. And I think that when you're looking at the matchups that Mueller had to play, Fils is difficult, but he's also a bit of a head case there. Kekmanovic is a full head case, and Husler is mostly a challenger guy. So based on the overall head-to-head and based on the actual path, I think that Munar is in better form right now, and I think it's going to be a close matchup. I don't mind the over 2.5 sets again, in which should feature a bunch of breaks, because I don't think both guys can serve, or either guy can serve. But I am going to go with Munar. I think -120 is cheap for a guy with head-to-head success, and once again, a more difficult path. I think Munar is probably going to win this one in 3, and I think that -120 is a good price. Moving on to the last match of the semis. You have a matchup, probably the second best match of, you could argue it's the best match of the day. I think Leheshka and Dimitrov will be good, and I think that Perricard and Opelka will be good. But Nishikori against Shang is a lot of fun. So for this one, Shang is actually a dog here in his home country in China. You have Nishikori at minus 118. You have Shang at minus 102. For the game spread, you have minus half a game for Nishikori. You have plus half a game for Shang. The over-under in game is set at 22.5. For the set spread here, you have Nishikori in straight sets at around plus 200. Shang to win in straight sets is plus 240. The over 2.5 sets is around plus 125. So for this matchup, 2 career meetings, and Shang is 2-0. I believe both meetings were last year. Now, one of them was in Chengdu last year. The other was in Atlanta in 23. So Shang won 6-4, 6-4 in Chengdu, and he ended up winning in Atlanta. Or sorry, he lost in Atlanta, apologies. Then Nishikori 6-4, 7-6. So the head-to-head is split, actually. But Shang did win the only meeting in China, and we'll see if that plays a factor in this one. Now, for the actual matchup here, I think you're in a pretty interesting spot where I think at the end of the day, you are expecting a war between these two guys. I see a lot of baseline rallying. I see a lot of overall, I'd say, drama to be in this matchup. And I think that Shang and Nishikori are going to absolutely kill each other. Not to mention the fact that Shang's been dropping sets recently, as he dropped the set to Moroz in the last round. Nishikori, though, has gone to a deciding set in a lot of matches. In fact, 4 of his last 5. So based on that, I see an absolute war here. I am going to go with the over in this one. I think you're looking at the over 2.5 sets of plus 125 being a good deal. But I also think that you might argue there's some value on Shang. I think Nishikori makes sense to be a favorite here, but Shang did win the last meeting, and he does have a slight home crowd advantage here being in Hong Kong. So I am going to go with Shang for value, but mostly I'm going with the over. I see absolute chaos and I see a lot of drama. It's a great match to watch if you're going to be up at 2 in the morning. So I'll go with that as my main play here. Give me the over. I think you'll see a very competitive battle between these two guys. So that's going to wrap it up for the preview of the 4 semifinal matchups taking place on a Saturday morning. Now it's time for the lock and dog picks. Before that, though, I want to remind you once again that we are brought to you by MyBookie, because MyBookie has a lot of props on every game, and they also have the live dealer casino. They have early cash out options if you are worried about your bet losing midway through. And a reminder, you can also head to mybookie.ag, use the promo code SGPN for 100% deposit match up to $1K plus a $10 casino chip. MyBookie.ag, promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. A reminder that Rhythm will help you build betting models if you want to experiment with that. So if you want to try and you don't know where to start, Rhythm can definitely help you do that, because they have all the tools to help you. No matter how skilled you are of a bettor, they can help you build models in seconds, get predictions on every game for money line spreads, totals, and props. A reminder, you can also build your own model, copy one from the leaderboard, or let Rhythm build one from scratch for you. And a reminder, you can also track props on Rhythm. You could use NFL picks, NFL props, college football, college basketball, NBA. Rhythm has it all. And a reminder, try it out for free. If you're skeptical, free week trial using the link. SportsGambling.com Rhythm. SportsGambling.com RATHMM. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Gambling Podcast. Just finished previewing the semifinal matchups here in Brisbane and in Hong Kong. Now it's time for the lock and dog picks. For the lock, we're going to go back to the Opelka and Perricard match, and for value, we are going to go with the under 26.5 games at minus 129. Main reason, Opelka has not dropped a set yet. He's been great. Perricard's been great too. Dropped the set to Kyrgios, but he has once again won each of the last 2 matches in straight sets. He's been coasting, and we know that his serve is great. So you're looking at what should feature most likely 2 tie breaks. Now, the point is that doesn't actually matter, because at 26.5, the only way you could possibly lose is the match going to 3 sets. So if you end up getting tie breaks in each of the first 2 sets, it doesn't matter. You just need each guy to not win a set and go to a decider. So I'm not exactly concerned by breakers here. You will get over 26.5 guaranteed if it goes to 3 sets. So it's really the only way you end up losing, because I don't see any 6-0s or anything crazy like that. You're going to get a lot of holds, probably no breaks, maybe one random one. But I do think at the end of the day, getting one of these 2 guys who've been playing in good form once again to not drop a set at 26.5, once again for the game total, at minus 129, I think it's a great deal. Breakers aren't going to matter. I'm kind of tossing the tie breaks aside. And if you want to make an argument, well, each tie break might be a coin flip. Great. It doesn't matter who wins the first tie break, because you just need that guy to win the second one too. So if we're looking at the tie breaks being a 50-50, or maybe a slight, I'd say, edge to Perricard, like 54-46 maybe, then you're looking at, once again, a pretty decent chance of not getting 3 sets. So I do think there's some value here, and I think the price is a little bit too high. I am going to go with, I think the price is too cheap, actually. I'm going to go with the under 26.5 games at -129 as my lock. For my dog, I am going to go to the last matchup between Nishikori and Shang, and I am going to go for the war. Give me the over 2.5 sets at +125. I think that it's a good value deal, first of all, because the same bet's at +105 on DraftKings. It's minus, actually, offshore. You can find -105. So I do like the price differential by shopping around. +125 was on BetMGM. So once again, you can shop around, find good prices. Shang, though, has dropped at least one set in 10 of his last 12, and 4 of Nishikori's last 5 matches did not end in straight sets, including each of the last 2 matchups for Nishikori in this event have not ended in straight sets. So I see a bit of drama here. You saw each guy win one of the 2 head-to-head meetings too. So you have seen some close battles with each guy having success. I see a war, and I think that +125 is a good price for what should be a marathon match based on 2 guys that love to baseline rally. I see drama, I see entertainment, and because of that, I am going to go with the over at plus money. So once again, the plays for the semifinal matches, the lock's going to be on the under 26.5 games here in the Opelka and Pericard match at -129. Hopefully, we do not get a third set. For the dog, I am going to go with the opposite. I'm going to go with the over 2.5 sets in the Nishikori and Shang match at +125. That's going to wrap it up. A reminder, back once again for the final in Brisbane and Hong Kong. So stay tuned for that. A reminder as well, don't forget to like, subscribe, and don't forget to enter the 400th episode contest where you can leave a rating and a review on Spotify or Apple. Send me a screenshot on Twitter in my DMs at Reichel Radio, and you'll be entered into the drawing. Winner will get a gift card to the SGPN merch store. Till next time, good luck to all of you and all of your bets. Bye, everyone.